this. Right, am I live? Yep, cool. So, welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Evra's outburst, a little bit about the transfer news which has come out today, not a lot of it, but I'll just cover that very, very shortly to see what I think. And also, there's a little bit going on. Obviously, we've got a game tomorrow, so we've had a press conference from Ollie, and I'll give my thoughts on what I would do with the starting 11 and how I would play that game. So let's dive in. I think first of all, we'll just tick off the transfer news because there's not a lot, and it's stuff that's been rumbling on for the last couple of weeks. We're talking about Alex Telles from Porto. Personally, I've not seen a lot of him. His numbers look great. I think we do need backup in the left back area because I think Brandon's probably better on the right hand side as a backup to Wan-Bissaka. So I would be in favour of bringing Alex Telles, and 20 odd million seems like a good deal. Whether or not he's going to have the same output that he has been having in Portugal in the Premier League and Champions League, I don't know, to be seen, but it's worth a shot at this point because we need numbers this season of any season. It's going to be very, very heavy on the players' legs. We saw last year at the end of the season, the legs were kind of falling off the players. You could just see that they were not physically ready to go 3-4 times a week, which is what was having to happen due to the project restart, which was incredibly poorly done. If I'm going to kind of rate how the Premier League approached things, but anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Fabrizio Romano has been saying that actually, yeah, looks like something's going down, and there's possibly a deal in the offing, so that hopefully they can get something over the line there. Although there's also a little bit of talk saying that PSG might be in for him, and it might be the case that this is all agent talk and it's actually trying to push PSG into making the move. So I really wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going to PSG after all of this. And a little update on Sanchez as well. It looks like the sporting director, Sebastian Kale, has said that Sanchez is going to stay, basically. I still think that if United put up the £105 million, £108 million, he'll go. They're not going to say no to that. But I don't think that the Glazers are going to let us do that. And that kind of swings us into the next little thing that's happened today. And in fact, I'm going to put this up on the screen so you guys can actually see the quotes from the main man, Patrice Evra. I think everyone will have seen his outburst by now, and I kind of really rate it. It's been a long time coming. Someone needs to say something. So here we go. Thank you to United Report. Definitely go follow these guys. Patrice Evra. The only problem I would say to Ed Woodward, trusting people should never trust. So he's been a little bit diplomatic there with Ed Woodward, but I'm going to go ahead and say I think Woodward's an absolute clown and a fool. I think we should probably not be giving him any sort of benefit of the doubt. He's been in the job since Fergie left, and he's been failing since Fergie left. So that's my thoughts there. He said that there's people in the club who are basically bringing down the good name of the likes of Charlton, Best, Law, the 99 team, and the 2008 team, which he was part of, which obviously won the Champions League and the league. So, and very similar to what Louis van Gaal had said, there's money men running the business, the football side of the club, and that's kind of what he said there. And you can kind of see it. It does feel like every time we get into the Champions League, the manager isn't then backed further. It's only if we drop out that we end up with some sort of a little rush to get signings through. He's also kind of said something which is really, really obvious. I think anyone who follows United knows that if we go in for a player, let's say Chelsea go in for them for 40 million or whatever, if we come in, it's instantly 80 or 100. So I think he's getting more towards that as well. This is the worst one actually here. A sporting director from a top club called him and has asked him to tell Matt Judge to answer the phone. Obviously, Matt Judge is the guy who deals with transfers or is supposed to be dealing with transfers, and that just shows an incredible lack of respect to the people that you need to do business with. If there's anyone that I would be firing if I was involved at United, Matt Judge would be top of the list. He seems like an absolute moron, and probably one of the people who is holding back the club in the biggest way. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything there. Obviously, Evra goes on to say the club needs to stop being so arrogant. It's very similar to what I kind of said there. That's not how you do business in any sort of way. I don't know if these people are from the financial world, and people in the financial world maybe don't respect each other. I think that's possibly what it is. But within football, from what I can see, these are more down-to-earth people across the world, and they don't take kindly to this kind of BS approach. So I think that's kind of the long and short of it. I mean, he keeps on going and going. He's and I agree with every word, and I probably, if I was him and knew the things that he knew, I would probably go further than he does. Talking about when United talk to players, lawyers get involved, and it's just talking about numbers. But most football players are pretty comfortable, and a lot of what a footballer wants to know is, can I do something that's going to make a name for myself? It's going to leave a lasting legacy, and I think that's a lot of the problem. Players like Paul Pogba, for example, we knew he wanted to leave. It was never for money in my mind. It was never for the kind of any other reason other than that United weren't challenging, and he's someone who has a high expectation of his career. So if United weren't challenging, he's obviously not going to be happy with that. And if I was as good as he is as football, then I wouldn't be happy with that either. So I really understand it. And then he goes on to say he's saying these things because he doesn't need a job at United, and other people maybe aren't because they do. So I kind of agree with everything he said there. So big props to Uncle Pat, love the guy. And let me just get this off screen. So yeah, that's kind of something that's really obviously holding the club back, and I hope it gets sorted out soon, but I don't think it will. I think it's going to take the Glazers being kicked out somehow for that to happen. I think if the Premier League want to make sure that all the clubs are in a healthy position, I would impose a rule that says you have a 20 points deduction if you're in debt and you're paying out dividends to your owners or shareholders. I think that should be a rule set in stone across football. You can't take money out of the club to shareholders and owners if you're in debt. I think that would be an incredibly good way to sort this particular issue. It means that well-run clubs who are not in debt are going to be unaffected. Poorly run clubs like United won't be able to be used as cash cows, and that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter. And I think I don't think there's a way it's going to happen, but that's what I would hope to happen. Let's move on to the game tomorrow, though, because obviously we had a terrible result against Crystal Palace. There were reasons for that. Crystal Palace had 7 games beforehand, and United had one very low-key, low-intensity friendly against Aston Villa last week as our preparation. You can imagine the game that we saw on Saturday was the game that you normally see during pre-season, where we look pretty terrible against some club from China or some club from South Africa. We always play like Kaiser Chiefs or something, from, is it Cape Town? I don't know where it is, but we play someone like that, and we usually look pretty terrible and make them look better than they are, because the players aren't fit and they're not match fit. Even if they're physically fit, they're not match sharp. And we saw that with people like Paul Pogba. We saw that with people like Bruno Fernandes. Things that normally come off in the final third weren't happening for him, and it's all due to the lack of match sharpness, which is normally built up over 4 to 6 weeks in pre-season. Obviously that's not happened because of the Europa League going further into it, and it's not happened because of the Nations League. And the difference between our players is a lot of them are internationals, and obviously we had that extended into the season, whereas most people finished at the end of the Premier League season. We had another 3 to 4 weeks within the season where players weren't able to go away. So by the time we stopped playing, other players had 4 weeks, other teams had 4 weeks off, and they were just coming back into pre-season, having their first games of pre-season. During that time, they've had 4 weeks to build up fitness and sharpness, and by now they're absolutely up and at it, ready to go. And you saw the difference that fitness match fitness makes in the top flight, there's not a huge amount of difference between different clubs, so or different teams. It's down to fitness that you can really win and lose out, and we saw that during the Mourinho era and the change towards the Oli era, where fitness became more and more of a thing, and we saw the uptick in results as a result. So let's have a look. Luton Town, I don't know a lot about them. Apparently Ryan Tunnicliffe plays for them now, so that'll be interesting to see how he does, but he's not someone that I watched a lot of when he was in the youth team. I just know he's in the same team as Pogba and Morrison and all those guys, but this is the team that I've gone for. So Dean Henderson nets. Now this is a bit of a weird team. I don't know if anyone's going to be thinking anything along these lines, but I thought I'd be a little bit more experimental. I don't expect to see this team, but this is probably something that I would like to see at some point. Obviously we saw that we were not match sharp, so I thought we need more defensive solidity. So I've gone with Wan-Bissaka, perfect, brilliant defender, amazing one-on-one, best in the world in my opinion, one-on-one. Then we've got Mengi, who is up and coming. He is an absolute monster in defence, if a little rash apparently, but that's not been something that you can say is not normal for United defenders. We've played Marcus Rojo, we've played Eric Bailly, who are both been rash at times, but Mengi has got an amazingly high ceiling, so I really want to see him with his pace and power alongside Harry Maguire, allowing Maguire to play his natural game, and obviously Brandon Williams on the left-hand side as a fullback. Then I've gone with, it's basically a 4-2-2. Fred McTominay, because we saw a really strong partnership between those two guys at the beginning and middle of last season, where they were the ones carrying the majority of the midfield work. Now, neither of those is a good enough replacement on his own for Nemanja Matic, but between the two of them, I think you've got a good amount of defensive solidity, and Fred is decent at progressing the ball further up the field. McTominay is strong in the air, so I think between them you've got, and they both are pretty good in the tackle, if not perfect. So I think between the two of them, they're going to give enough protection to the back four to allow the fullbacks to push on. Now the 4-2-2 is really useful because we've got two attacking midfielders there as well, in Pogba and Fernandes, because I did think that Pogba needs more minutes in his legs and Fernandes also needs more minutes in his legs. So I thought that we would go with those two in more of an attacking free role. Obviously everyone's got to defend when the time comes, but it would allow the strikers to be split, one to go down the middle and arrive late, and the other to work as a playmaker. And I think both of those attacking midfielders, Pogba and Fernandes, are able to do that in the right system. Obviously, you should have Williams and Wan-Bissaka providing an overload, and you allow Martial and Greenwood just to pop up in interesting spaces, maybe pulling off the defensive line to pick up the ball and then play one of the other three in. I think it could be really interesting and fluid. Obviously, then you've got the strong kind of quartet of Fred, McTominay, Maguire and Mengi to back things up if need be. I think it could be a really interesting way to play, especially as I don't think Marcus Rashford is fit. If you watched how he played, he didn't look like he was at the races, and I don't think it's because he wasn't trying. He just didn't look completely match fit to me, so that's why I've gone with those guys. I'd be very surprised if this is what Ollie goes for. I'm expecting to see the likes of Dan James, maybe Jesse Lingard, who I'm very in favour of keeping at the moment, and as we need more legs this year. But I think that would be an interesting one to see. Let's have a look. So that's kind of my starting 11. I wouldn't be surprised if it's completely different. I think you might end up actually seeing something along the lines of this. Let me just change things up. In fact, well, I kind of said what I was expecting to see a bit more of, but that's my 2 cents on the game tomorrow. I think it's really important that we don't underestimate Luton Town, which is why I went with more of a really thick defensive midfield and back line, whilst having 4 players who have definitely got quality and production within them. Luton are like third in the championship, so they're not a pushover team. Even though you would think, oh, Luton Town are not, well known and amazing team. They are probably a bit more solid than people would think. So I'm hoping we don't underestimate them. We don't go with a team that's too underpowered. I think we do need to get minutes into the legs of these first team players, and I would prefer to do that by playing the strongest 11 or a stronger 11 first, and then cycle some guys in and out. I think we made enough changes in that particular lineup that you can see there that we could possibly do that. So we'll see what Ollie goes with. There are no injuries according to him from the press conference, so he's got more or less a full squad to pick from. Let me know what you think of this particular formation. I know that it's a little bit out of left field, but it is one that we have seen before. If you remember back to the Marcus Rashford annihilation of Trent, this is the exact same formation that we played in that game, 4-2-2, although it was slightly different in terms of the personnel. We had a much different squad at that point. But I would be very, very interested to see something. It might be in the Chelsea game. If you remember, we played Chelsea and then Liverpool, or the other way around, and then it was that infamously horrible Sevilla game under the Jose reign. So let's see if that's what happens, guys. Let me just hide this, and let me know what you think. Hopefully, we'll be back with a happier result than on Saturday. But that's been me from today. Head over to the subscribe button wherever it is. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell when I drop a video. I'm pretty much going to do these live. I don't want to do too much pre-production, and there are things that I can do to get my phone on screen, which makes it look nice. So let me know what you think of the quality of the video, quality of the sound, and make sure to check out my other channel, which is the dental one as well, which if you're interested in that kind of thing, be interesting for you. It's basically me interviewing loads and loads of dentists and trying to find out about their lives, not so much about the dentistry, but actually what makes them tick in real life. So if that's something you're interested in, head over and check that out. But yeah, that's been me for today, guys. Get your score predictions in as well. I think we're probably going to win 2-0. I think it's going to be a really, really hard fought game. I think we're going to maybe struggle. So that's kind of my prediction for the game as well, because I didn't say that already. Drop your starting 11s that you think of as well, what you reckon is going to come up, and we'll see what happens. Sweet.